Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
Welcome to our deep dive into the printing press. We often think of Johannes Gutenberg around 1440.
Right.
But today we'll uncover a much broader story,
Yeah.
exploring its roots in Asia and examining the Ottoman Empire's complex relationship with this revolutionary technology.
Exactly. While Gutenberg's press definitely transformed Europe, we really can't forget that printing existed long before his innovations.
Okay, so let's rewind the clock and head east.
Yeah.
Where do we see these earliest forms of printing emerging?
Well, our journey starts in East Asia, where printing flourished centuries before Gutenberg. During the Tang dynasty, between the 7th and 10th centuries, the Chinese developed woodblock printing. This method involved meticulously carving text and images onto wooden blocks, then inking and pressing these blocks onto paper.
Wow.
Just imagine the precision and artistry required to create these intricate carvings, especially considering the complexity of Chinese characters.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about the sheer scale of knowledge transfer that must have been happening, even with a method like woodblock printing.
Absolutely. And the innovation didn't stop there. In the 11th century, during the Song dynasty, a man named Bi Sheng took printing to a whole other level by inventing movable clay type.
Okay.
And this was a huge step forward because it allowed for much greater flexibility and efficiency compared to woodblock printing.
So individual characters could be rearranged and reused.
Exactly. This was a precursor to the movable type system that Gutenberg would later develop in Europe. But even before that, during the Goryeo dynasty in the 13th century, Korea also made significant strides in printing technology by developing movable metal type.
So we see multiple cultures innovating in this space. Why didn't these earlier Asian innovations spark a printing revolution on the same scale as what we saw later in Europe?
Well, that's a question that historians have pondered for many years. One factor is the complexity of Chinese characters. Creating individual pieces of type for thousands of characters was a really big task, especially compared to the relatively smaller number of letters in alphabetic scripts.
I see. So the logistical challenges were immense.
Exactly. And the socio-political context in Asia also played a role. Some scholars argue that the need for mass communication wasn't as pressing in these societies at the time.
Okay.
There wasn't the same urgency to rapidly disseminate information to a wide audience.
Okay. So now let's shift our focus to Gutenberg. What were his key innovations and what made his printing press so revolutionary?
Gutenberg's genius really lay in his ability to kind of synthesize existing technologies and refine them into a very efficient system.
Okay.
He combined movable type, which was inspired by earlier Asian innovations, with oil-based inks, and adapted the screw press, a device originally used for winemaking, to create his printing press. This system was optimized for alphabetic scripts, and it was a game changer. It allowed for the mass production of books, making them far more affordable and accessible to a wider audience.
It seems almost obvious now, but that shift from handwritten manuscripts to mass-produced books was monumental. What were the immediate consequences of this knowledge explosion in Europe?
The impact was really widespread and profound. The printing press fueled the Renaissance, a period of intense intellectual and artistic revival in Europe. It allowed for the rediscovery and dissemination of classical knowledge, connecting scholars across vast distances and sparking new ideas in art, science, and philosophy.
So we can imagine a network of thinkers suddenly able to build upon each other's work thanks to the printing press.
Precisely. Think of it as an early form of academic collaboration and knowledge sharing. The printing press also played a pivotal role in the scientific revolution.
Okay.
Just imagine a world without scientific journals.
Yeah.
The ability to quickly and accurately reproduce scientific findings, diagrams, and theories was crucial for the rapid advancement of scientific knowledge.
This allowed scientists across Europe to build on each other's work, share their discoveries, and establish a common body of knowledge.
The standardization of scientific texts through printing must have been a huge leap forward for accuracy and consistency.
Absolutely. It's difficult to overstate the impact of this. And then, of course, there's the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther and other reformers were able to leverage the power of the printing press to challenge the Catholic Church's authority.
Right.
They disseminated their ideas directly to the people, bypassing the traditional gatekeepers of knowledge and sparking a religious upheaval that completely reshaped Europe.
It's a striking example of how technology can disrupt existing power structures. But the printing press's influence extended far beyond intellectual and religious spheres, didn't it? It really reshaped society itself.
Certainly, the demand for printed materials just skyrocketed,
Yeah.
giving rise to book fairs, printing guilds, and professional publishers. This was a booming new industry with economic ripples that spread throughout Europe.
As books became more affordable, literacy rates rose, leading to social mobility. Individuals from all walks of life could access knowledge, improving their social standing and contributing to a more informed citizenry.
It's fascinating to see how the printing press helped lay the foundation for a more educated and engaged public.
And let's not forget the impact on education itself. Textbooks and reference materials became widely available, standardizing learning across Europe. The printing press revolutionized the way knowledge was transmitted and made it possible to educate people on a far greater scale.
It's amazing to think how many of our modern educational practices are rooted in the innovations of the printing press. But this technology, as we've seen with the Reformation, also had the potential to be disruptive and even dangerous.
That's right.
Right.
Think of the printing press as an early form of social media.
Okay.
It was powerful in its ability to spread ideas, whether those ideas promoted liberty and democracy, as with the Enlightenment, or were used for propaganda and manipulation.
So the printing press was a double-edged sword, capable of both empowering and controlling. And this brings us to a particularly interesting case study, the Ottoman Empire. Why did they initially resist the printing press when it was so readily embraced in Europe?
The Ottoman Empire's response to the printing press was complex. It was rooted in their unique cultural and religious context. Calligraphy, particularly for sacred texts like the Quran, held immense artistic and spiritual significance.
Right.
Printed books were seen as lacking the beauty and sanctity of handwritten manuscripts.
So there was a sense that the printing press, with its mechanical reproduction, couldn't capture the soul of their artistic and spiritual traditions.
Exactly. The Ottoman elite viewed printing as a potential threat to their established artistic and scribal traditions.
Okay.
And beyond the aesthetic concerns, there were deeper anxieties at play. Religious scholars, the ulama, feared the potential for heresy if religious texts could be reproduced without their careful oversight.
Right.
They saw the printing press as a challenge to their authority as guardians of religious knowledge.
So there was a fear that the printing press could lead to misinterpretations or even intentional distortions of religious texts.
Precisely. And this fear wasn't entirely unfounded. The printing press did, in fact, lead to a greater diversity of interpretations and even dissent within religious circles in Europe.
Right.
The Ottoman ulama were keen to avoid such instability.
Yeah. What's interesting is that while there was clear resistance at the highest levels of the Ottoman Empire, printing wasn't completely absent.
You're right. Despite the general resistance, certain minority communities within the Ottoman Empire were permitted to print in their own languages.
Okay.
Jewish and Armenian communities played a vital role in knowledge dissemination within their circles. They were granted exceptions to the printing restrictions, likely due to their perceived lower threat to the dominant Islamic culture and power structure.
It's remarkable to think of these communities embracing a new technology while navigating complex social and religious dynamics.
Indeed. A particularly poignant example is the establishment of the first Hebrew printing press in Istanbul in 1493. This press was set up by Sephardic Jews who had been expelled from Spain.
Right.
They brought their printing expertise with them and found a new home for their craft in the Ottoman Empire.
A testament to their resilience and their commitment to knowledge preservation. It seems like there's much more to explore here.
There certainly is. The Ottoman Empire's relationship with the printing press is full of fascinating twists and turns, and its eventual adoption of the technology had significant consequences.
We'll delve deeper into this story in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the printing press. In part one, we trace the journey of this invention from its roots in Asia to its transformative impact on Europe, highlighting the Ottoman Empire's initial resistance to its adoption.
Right. We explored how the Ottoman Empire's hesitancy stemmed from deeply ingrained cultural and religious beliefs that placed high value on the art of calligraphy and saw the printed word as lacking the spiritual depth of handwritten manuscripts.
Today, we'll delve deeper into the consequences of that resistance, examining how the printing press impacted the flow of knowledge and ultimately the balance of power on a global scale.
To fully grasp the magnitude of the printing press's influence, it's helpful to contrast the world before and after its arrival.
Okay.
Let's start by considering what manuscript culture entailed before the printing press entered the scene.
In the era of manuscript culture, knowledge was largely confined to a privileged few scribes painstakingly copied texts by hand, a process that was both time-consuming and expensive.
Right.
This meant that books and other written materials were primarily accessible to the elite,
Okay.
those who could afford to commission or purchase these handcrafted works.
So knowledge then was a luxury good carefully controlled and disseminated. How did the printing press disrupt this system?
The printing press democratized knowledge by making texts significantly more affordable and readily available.
Boy.
The ability to mass-produce books meant that they were no longer solely the domain of the wealthy or powerful institutions like the church. This shift in access to information had profound implications, particularly for religious authority.
In the manuscript era, the church exerted significant control over what information was produced and how it was disseminated.
Yes.
They acted as gatekeepers, deciding which texts were considered acceptable and who had the right to access them.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The printing press challenged this monopoly on knowledge. It facilitated the spread of diverse viewpoints, including those that questioned established doctrines.
Right.
This empowered individuals to engage directly with religious texts, fostering independent interpretation, and as we saw with the Protestant Reformation, fueling movements that challenged the church's authority.
It's fascinating how the printing press, in essence, enabled individuals to wrest control over their own religious understanding.
Yeah.
But the impact of this technology went beyond religion shaping languages themselves.
Before the printing press, language was far more fluid. Regional variations and dialects were common.
Okay.
And there wasn't a strong pressure to standardize language across large geographical areas.
But the printing press introduced a need for consistency.
Exactly. Printed texts required consistent spelling grammar and syntax to ensure that they could be understood by a wider audience.
Right.
This played a crucial role in the formation of national languages.
Okay.
Think of Martin Luther's translation of the Bible into German.
Okay.
It not only made religious texts accessible to a broader German-speaking public, but also contributed significantly to the standardization of the German language itself.
So the printing press helped unify languages and, by extension, people,
Yes.
creating a shared linguistic identity.
That's right. It's a powerful illustration of how technology can influence not only the way we communicate, but also our sense of collective identity and belonging.
But as we've seen, the power to disseminate information widely also comes with the potential for misuse. The printing press, for all its benefits, also became a target for censorship.
Of course. Both religious and secular authorities recognized that the printing press had the power to spread ideas that might challenge their control. And they responded with attempts to censor printed materials. The Catholic Church, for example, established the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, a list of books deemed heretical or dangerous to the faith.
Possessing or distributing these banned books could lead to severe consequences?
Yes. The punishments for violating these censorship laws were often quite harsh. Secular authorities also implemented their own forms of censorship, targeting political pamphlets or writings critical of the government.
Okay.
They understood that the printing press could be a powerful tool for dissent and sought to control the flow of potentially subversive ideas.
It's interesting, though, that despite these efforts, censorship was never entirely successful.
That's right. The very nature of the printing press, its ability to reproduce and distribute information rapidly and widely, made it difficult to completely control.
Yeah.
Ideas could spread across borders and through underground networks, making it extremely challenging for authorities to effectively suppress dissenting voices.
So the printing press, in a way, helped pave the path toward greater freedom of expression and the exchange of ideas.
Undoubtedly. By empowering individuals with access to knowledge and the ability to share their own perspectives, the printing press became a catalyst for social and political change, laying the foundation for many of the freedoms we enjoy today.
Now, circling back to the Ottoman Empire, we left off with their initial resistance to the printing press and the limited printing activities within minority communities. Did the Ottomans eventually embrace the technology? And if so, what were the implications of their delayed adoption?
As we discussed, the Ottoman Empire's initial rejection of the printing press stemmed from a complex mix of cultural, religious, and political anxieties. However, this resistance had significant consequences for their trajectory as a global power.
How did this hesitancy impact their development compared to Europe?
The delayed adoption of the printing press led to a widening knowledge gap between the Ottoman Empire and Europe. While Europe experienced a flourishing of scientific discovery, artistic innovation, and intellectual discourse, the Ottoman Empire lagged behind, missing out on many of the advancements that were shaping the modern world.
A missed opportunity, perhaps.
Precisely. And this gap in knowledge had a direct impact on their economic and military competitiveness. Without access to the latest scientific and technological knowledge, the Ottoman Empire struggled to keep pace with its European rivals, both in terms of trade and military prowess.
So there were tangible, real-world consequences to their reluctance to embrace this new technology.
Absolutely. The lack of widespread printing also had a profound impact on educational opportunities within the empire. Fewer books meant limited access to knowledge for the general population, which hindered literacy rates and in turn hampered intellectual growth and societal advancement.
Right. This ultimately limited their ability to innovate and adapt to the rapidly changing global landscape.
Exactly. The story of the Ottoman Empire and the printing press serves as a cautionary tale, highlighting the importance of embracing technological advancements and the potential pitfalls of clinging to tradition in the face of disruptive innovations.
Right.
It underscores the idea that societies that are open to new ideas and new ways of doing things are better equipped to thrive in a constantly evolving world.
It's a powerful lesson that transcends historical context. Even today, we see debates about the impact of new technologies and the anxieties they can provoke.
Certainly, the Ottoman Empire's experience reminds us that while tradition has its place, it's essential to strike a balance between preserving what's valuable from the past and adapting to the possibilities of the future.
Their story also raises questions about the relationship between access to knowledge and power.
Without question. The printing press, by democratizing access to information, challenged traditional hierarchies and empowered those who previously had limited access to knowledge. This redistribution of knowledge in many ways led to a redistribution of power. It's a dynamic that we continue to witness today, especially with the rise of the internet and digital communication. The ability to control and disseminate information remains a powerful tool shaping political discourse, social movements, and even global power dynamics.
It seems that the legacy of the printing press continues to shape our world in ways that Gutenberg himself could have never imagined.
That's precisely what makes studying this seemingly simple invention so fascinating.
Right.
Its ripple effects are still being felt centuries later.
And in our final part, we'll explore the lasting legacies of the printing press and how its core principles continue to shape the way we create, share, and consume information in our increasingly digital world. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the printing press. In the previous parts, we traced the evolution of printing from its early forms in Asia to its revolutionary impact on Europe.
Yes.
And examined the Ottoman Empire's complex relationship with this transformative technology.
Right. We explored how the printing press democratized knowledge, challenged traditional authorities, and laid the groundwork for the information age we live in today.
Now let's shift our focus to the enduring legacies of the printing press. While the technology itself has evolved significantly, the core principles that underpinned Gutenberg's invention continue to shape how we create, share, and consume information in the 21st century.
One of the most significant legacies of the printing press is the concept of mass production.
Okay.
The ability to create multiple identical copies of a text was a radical departure from the painstaking process of hand copying manuscripts. This idea of reproducibility made possible by the printing press became a cornerstone of modern manufacturing and media.
We see this principle at play everywhere, from the mass production of newspapers and magazines to the digital replication and distribution of content online.
Exactly. The printing press established the foundation for a world where information could be readily duplicated and disseminated on a large scale. Another key legacy is the standardization of knowledge. Before the printing press, texts were often copied by hand,
Right.
leading to variations and errors. This made it difficult to ensure accuracy and consistency across different copies of the same text.
So knowledge was more fluid, more susceptible to change with each reproduction.
Precisely. The printing press, on the other hand, allowed for the creation of uniform texts, ensuring consistency and accuracy across multiple copies. This standardization was crucial for the development of scientific disciplines, where precision and the ability to replicate experiments were paramount. It also played a vital role in education, enabling the creation of textbooks and the establishment of standardized curricula.
This standardization then helped establish a shared foundation of knowledge, which is essential for building upon existing ideas and advancing our understanding of the world.
Precisely. It created a common ground for intellectual discourse and collaboration.
But perhaps the most profound and enduring legacy of the printing press is its contribution to the concept of freedom of information. by empowering individuals to access knowledge independently of traditional gatekeepers.
Right.
The printing press challenged the authority of institutions that had long controlled the flow of information.
The printing press enabled the dissemination of diverse viewpoints, fostering debate and challenging established narratives. This spirit of free inquiry and the open exchange of ideas lies at the heart of modern democracies and scientific progress.
It's interesting to consider how these principles, first made possible by the printing press, have evolved and manifested in our modern digital landscape. In many ways, the internet, with its vast networks and seemingly limitless information, can be seen as a direct descendant of the printing press.
Absolutely. Both technologies have democratized access to information, challenged traditional power structures, and accelerated the pace of communication and innovation.
Social media platforms in particular function as modern-day printing presses, allowing individuals to create and share content with a global audience.
The ease of publication and the potential for widespread reach mirror the transformative power of the printing press centuries ago.
However, just as the printing press had its challenges, so too does our digital age. The spread of misinformation, the potential for manipulation, and the overwhelming volume of information we encounter daily are issues that we must grapple with as we navigate the complexities of our interconnected world.
The parallels are striking. The printing press, while revolutionary, also opened the door to propaganda and the deliberate distortion of information.
And just as authorities in the past struggled to control the flow of printed materials, we now face similar challenges in regulating the spread of information online.
Precisely. The lessons we learn from the history of the printing press can help us navigate these challenges in the digital age. We must cultivate critical thinking skills, develop strategies for evaluating the credibility of information sources, and engage in thoughtful dialogue about the responsible use of technology.
The printing press reminds us that technology in itself is neither good nor bad. It's a tool, and its impact depends largely on how we choose to use it.
That's a crucial point. Just as the printing press could be used to spread both enlightenment and misinformation, the internet and social media have the potential to both empower and divide us. It's our responsibility to harness these tools for good, promoting knowledge, understanding, and positive social change.
As we conclude our deep dive into the printing press, we invite you to reflect on the profound and lasting impact of this invention. From the books we read to the information we consume online, the printing press has left an indelible mark on our world.
It stands as a testament to human ingenuity, the power of ideas, and the enduring quest for knowledge.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration. We encourage you to continue to delve deeper into the fascinating world of the printing press and its enduring influence on our lives.
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.